The introduction to your presentation needs to fulfill several functions. It needs to get your audience interested in the subject that you're going to be talking about. It needs to establish your credibility both as a presenter and as someone who's worth listening to on this particular subject. It needs to set the tone of the presentation, and it needs to tell the audience what to expect in terms of the structure and duration of the rest of the presentation. Let's start with getting the audience interested in your subject. A great way to think about this is to imagine the audience thinking, why should I listen to this? Assume that you've got about 30 seconds to answer this for them. What would you say? It needs to get the benefit that the audience will get from listening down into one short sentence. Next, imagine they're thinking, why should I listen to you? Again, assume that you have about 30 seconds to let them know the answer. What would you say? Maybe it's to do with qualifications you have in the subject that you're talking about. Or maybe you've just finished some research into the subject. Or maybe it's simply your job role that determines that you are the person to listen to. Identify what it is that gives you credibility and again, sum it up in a short sentence. Okay, we've fulfilled two of the functions of the introduction, getting the audience interested in your subject and establishing your credibility. So now let's look at two more, the tone of the presentation and the structure. It may be important to tell your audience whether you want participation from them or not, and if so, when. If your presentation has the aim of seeking the views of the audience in any way, it's good to let them know that early on. It will mean that they'll be listening with that intent. It could be that you want them to ask questions as you go, or contribute ideas at a particular point, or to do something at the end of the presentation. Prepare them for it right from the start, and you're much more likely to get a good response. Finally, the structure. Describing the structure of the rest of your presentation during the introduction gives your audience a roadmap for what's to come and helps them to follow it. If your presentation is going to describe a problem and then consider 3 possible solutions to that problem and finally recommend one that you think is best, then tell the audience exactly that. It will help them to stay with your argument and consequently maintain a higher level of engagement. It also helps them if you tell them roughly how long all this is going to take. So when you're thinking about your introduction, make sure it includes the benefit the audience will get for listening, why you are the person to tell them about it, whether or not you want interaction from them, and what the structure is of what's to come.